Welcome to our Albania trip guide. Today we're going to share with you a little bit of our 20-day trip to Albania during the summer. We'll talk about our experience, recommendations, and total costs for transportation, accommodation, food, and activities to help guide you on your next Albania vacation.
Quick disclaimer though.
We are traveling on a budget. We are trying to be very economical, and you can check our full vlog for all the places you're going. We are always booking 1 week before. Things might be even cheaper if you plan with more time.
We actually went there in August of 2024. Probably this was peak summer tourist season 2 as well, so that's what our prices, recommendations, and experience is going to be based on. So we spent most of our time in Albania, in the capital region Tirana, and then we spent quite a bit in southern Albania, so Saranda and the nearby beaches on the central kind of coast area, as well as down south by the Kazimil Islands. There's much more to Albania, of course, including the famous north, and also towards the northeast, towards the Kosovo region.
Hopefully you're going to be back to Albania and you're going to do another video explaining these other regions we're not covering in this video today.
So we picked Albania quite last minute. We didn't really have an idea what to expect. We just had some maybe stereotypes from some like Western Hollywood movies.
We're surprised that it's almost extremely the opposite.
It feels like, it's kind of a special secret right now, and I guess it's growing and more people are going such as us, but it's definitely a place where your money goes very far.
So let's start with our first category, transportation. So how is transportation in Albania? How can you get there from other places in Europe or around the world?
Albania basically has one major international airport, and that's located in Tirana. It has Ryanair, Wizz Air, among a couple of other budget European carriers are able to take you there. I know Lufthansa, Austrian Airlines, British Airways, also a lot of more major carriers are now flying to Tirana. You can connect somewhere in Europe if you're coming from outside North America, or if you're in Europe, you probably have a direct flight from somewhere nearby. Actually, there's a secondary option. You can get to Albania, but not maybe very traditional. You can actually fly down to Corfu in Greece, and if you ever look at a map of where Corfu, Greece it's just right across the water to Albania, and you can actually just take one of the many ferries from Greece to Saranda. Those are kind of the two major ways to get into Albania. So you just arrived to Albania and you want to see how you're going to move around Albania and how you're going to move around the cities. This one was a bit of the areas where we didn't have a lot of luck in. We flew into Tirana airport, and from Google Maps it looks like there was one bus that took you to the center of Tirana, but it wasn't very clear kind of where to stop off, and we were staying in a neighborhood called Bloku, which is still a bit central, but it didn't seem anywhere near the bus station, so we opted to just take a taxi that takes us directly to our Airbnb. Within Tirana itself, we saw some public buses going around, but it didn't seem very integrated into Google Maps. We always had challenges to kind of understand how it worked, when the bus would come or not. Maybe there's a website or a specific app in Albania, but it's just not very trivial. Now, for us, that wasn't too bad because we're in Bloku, which is an extremely well-located neighborhood. Most of our transportation, at least within Tirana, was walking.
Within 30 minutes, you could cover the main areas.
One thing we did notice, actually, is there was no Uber in Albania. We found this app called Pakato, which I think is like a new startup company in Albania that is Uber-like.
And this app also lets you pay by credit card. It's definitely not usual in Albania. In Albania, everything is cash.
Congratulations, Mr. Krabs.
Hello, I like money.
After spending some time in Tirana, we decided to go to Saranda. We first looked into the option of renting a car, and it was definitely not cheap, at least compared to other places in Europe. It was about $40 a day. The other option then would be to take a bus. There is even a link to buy the tickets. We didn't want to risk to buy online. We wanted to buy it in person.
Our challenge was that this bus station was actually not really in any central location. So it was in a place called the North-South bus station, which is basically like a large parking lot somewhere near the airport, where there's just tons of buses. I guess it takes you all around Albania, well, I guess north and south. So we had to get there, and we couldn't really just walk there. We had all our stuff. So we took a Pakato. It wasn't too bad, maybe about $15-16. And when we got there, we just kind of hurried up to see where we can buy a ticket, and there was just like a kiosk, said Saranda on it. So we paid them, got our tickets, and kind of ran towards the bus they told us to go to. They were loading luggage there, so we had to put our packed backpacks inside, and we got on the bus. Apparently our tickets had our seats on them, so I guess the bus was full, and we weren't actually sitting next to each other. And we were still behind each other, but for our first bus ride in Albania, everything was new. It was kind of
disappointing.
It's disappointing, yeah.
Make sure to arrive early at the bus station. Just avoid all the stress of having to get there to the bus station last minute.
And another kind of maybe surprising thing for us was there was no washrooms on the bus. So it's a huge bus. Most people, or at least the tourists who are taking it, it's kind of their first time in Albania, so maybe they imagine a washroom there or something, but absolutely nothing. The only pit stop they did was a stop down the middle where, not too bad. People can go to a restaurant, stretch their legs, and most importantly use the bathroom, but that's about 2.5 hours hours in. So that was maybe one of our least liked things in our trip in Albania, is transportation between these big cities. Not the most comfortable and also not the most cheap as well. At $17 each, so about $40 for us to go between the two, especially relatively, I think, to the cost of Albania and how much that $17 can go. And the one redeeming factor, though, about the bus ride is the highways are gorgeous in terms of scenery. Maybe an hour and a half out of Tirana when you kind of reach the middle of Albania, all the way down to Saranda, and it's really remote and beautiful. It's definitely not a boring drive.
In Saranda, we were very close to one of the main areas in the city, which is the Promenade, which is this very lively street in front of the beach.
The streets are small, there's a lot of traffic, so if you're walking about, you can get to most places if you're staying somewhere around. You don't really have to rely on buses to get you around. Now, once you start talking about getting to places outside of the city, maybe a castle here and there, maybe the beaches or the really nice beaches, and for that you definitely need some sort of vehicle transportation that we found public transportation is not there. So your choices are either renting a car or taking one of the many different kind of tour and group tour options.
It's not too expensive, but it's still cheaper to rent a car if you're in a group than to pay per person to go to this place. And if you're comfortable driving, of course.
We opted to rent a car from Saranda, from the terminal building, the same terminal building that has the ferry to Corfu and back. So we rented from a company called Surprise Rental Car. It was the cheapest that we could find. Saranda itself, you'll notice, is a tourist town that's kind of growing maybe a bit too quick for its development.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of people, a lot of cars. It's kind of even hard to walk sometimes because the sidewalks are not very developed and you have to walk between cars. So imagine just driving there. It's a lot of bumper to bumper traffic, and it wasn't the easiest experience for sure. But once you kind of leave the Saranda city area, the highways get a bit more open and you can start really exploring and enjoying one of the most beautiful mountain roads that we've ever been on. Really rivals France or even like beautiful places in the western US where you have switchbacks just with gorgeous views. Most of these highways are just single lane, by the way. I think it's just because most of the country depends on it. So there's a lot of trucks, buses, vans that you have to overtake back and forth. So I would say, driving in Albania is not for the faint of heart per se. If you need very predictable driving, it's not the place. So people won't use their turn signals too much. People, might just not really obey speed limits or even like lane marking. So you have to be a bit more flexible and kind of go with the flow. And of course, because it's Europe, most cars are going to be manual. So that's also another thing to consider when renting there. But it's definitely not daunting to drive in Albania, and you really unlock the beauty of its raw nature if you're able to drive around. And it's definitely the way to really experience the culture, I would say. You definitely need to drive, go through villages, stop by random restaurants and places, and kind of see how the locals go about life. It's a country that's developing. It had a long past, a dark past, but now it's in full gear to kind of develop. You can see that there's a lot of progress, but just so you know, when you arrive, don't expect a fully built out highway system like Germany or something, but it's getting there.
We spent a total of $314 on transportation in Albania. This included the cost of the intercity bus between Saranda and Tirana, as well as expenses with taxes, car rental, and gas.
So let's talk about accommodation.
Accommodation is probably one of our favorite things about traveling to Albania.
And as a couple who's on a journey until our money runs out, accommodation is usually the biggest factor.
Hey guys, this is Rafa coming from the future. If you enjoy our videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later.
We used AirBnB to book our places in Tirana, and we found lots of options just booking 1 week in advance.
We always had laundry, dishwasher, a large bedroom, living room, of course, full equipped kitchen in a very nice neighborhood.
We settled on the Bloku neighborhood, which we read online was where like all the lively kind of action is, where all the restaurants, shops, and kind of where a lot of people tend to go, which, definitely did not disappoint. So on all our time in Tirana, we always stayed in the Bloku neighborhood. We can walk around to lots of restaurants and shops, get all our groceries, go to cafes and see everyone hanging out. And we also kind of learned about this interesting history of that neighborhood. Is during the communist regime, that's where kind of the political elites of Albania would hang out, and it was kind of off limits for the locals. So it's super cool to kind of see how the locals took that area back and are kind of maximizing fun out of it.
And one thing we quickly noticed is to never judge the place by its exterior, because you're quite nervous entering some apartments because the outside was really very run out, the staircase, just the painting and everything. But then when you enter in the apartment, definitely doesn't match the exterior. So don't get scared by how it looks outside, because the inside of the apartments, they're very nice.
And one thing we also noticed and we saw and took advantage of is sometimes sometimes the same apartment that you find on Airbnb, the hosts are also putting it up on booking.com, but the booking.com price would often be much, much cheaper. I'm assuming that's because they're not paying the extra Airbnb fees. Same apartments, same everything. We saw the reviews on Airbnb, but then we just jumped on Booking. We're able to save hundreds of dollars just booking on booking.com. But in our case, one quick caveat is because the payment is actually done in cash. With Airbnb, you do have the benefit of at least using Airbnb as the payment platform. Pro tip, check on booking.com before you settle on Airbnb. Tirana had huge apartments that are super affordable, and we booked last minute. So I imagine if we book somewhere in the winter, like a few months before, you can probably get under $30 a day. We hear about rents that are probably about $300 a month. Saranda is a bit of a different ballgame where it's much more touristic. You have a lot of visitors from all around Europe.
Things get definitely more expensive, especially if you're near the water because it's a beach town. The hotels near the water were about $100 a night. But then if you look for apartments, Airbnb apartments, maybe 5-10 minutes walking to the beach, you could find for $50-$60 a night. They're definitely smaller than the apartments in Tirana.
It's more something to just stay for the night, enjoy the beach, and be outside the rest of the day. One thing we also noticed in Saranda was pretty unique for us is we'd be driving in and out or just walking around, and we'd see a lot of these usually older people actually just sitting aside on a chair with a sign that says like apartment for rent. And we saw people just, from your car, just roll down the window, and it seemed like you can just negotiate a price. Maybe those are a bit cheaper than the ones you find on booking.com. But again, you might not have any place available. It's good to have a guaranteed place to sleep.
Staying near the promenade is key in Saranda. You can go for a walk during the day. The beach is also public, so you can just go to the beach, go for a dip.
Yeah, it's actually one of the only places you can actually swim for free, completely free, is the Saranda public beach, as Af was saying.
It looks like this is changing. We are going to talk a little bit about that when you go to the activities section of this video, so keep watching.
The bathrooms, just FYI, most of the showers don't have like an enclosed space, so it's just kind of a whole bathroom kind of drains in the middle. So just note, if you are sensitive to such a thing, is take a closer look at the pictures of the shower.
It's something to keep in mind. The bathrooms are different, at least the place we booked.
Yeah.
Our total cost of accommodation for 21 days in Albania, 13 days in Tirana, and 8 days in Saranda was $831. Now let's go to our next topic. Food. The overall cuisine is a mix of Turkish, Italian, and Greek.
So meat-based with some pastas and pizzas and some kind of different vegetarian stew dishes. We discovered this type of restaurants that are called like mama's food. And I remember our first time when we went there, like, oh, cool, they have homemade food. So we went there, ready to sit down and order, but it works a bit differently. So basically you come in and every day there's a new menu. Nothing's online. You just kind of walk in and it's up to what they cook that day, right? So it's often like they have a chicken, a beef, and some carbs, and then a soup that you pick between just three options. It's super cheap, $3-4 per person we would be paying, and we'd be able to get like a carb and a meat. It's super healthy. Usually they're actually run by families, so it definitely seems like a very kind of local way to eat. And where we were in the Block neighborhood, we were super lucky that we had like 5-6 of them just within a 5-minute walk distance, so we definitely had a very easy time to grab lunch.
A lot of restaurants and a lot of these mama food places, they're not on Google Maps, so if you just walk around and actually spotting the place and going and trying might be the best way for you to find that.
Yeah, you
so
definitely
don't
have to
rely on Google Maps.
Yeah, you definitely have to be a bit more adventurous. You can't really pre-plan your meals. You see a lot of locals, like during lunchtime, go and grab it. So jump in, and most of the time they speak English, so don't be worried about that at all.
And this mainly in Tirana that we found this mama food place. In Saranda we didn't find any of it.
We found a super cool pasta chain across Albania called Pastaria that we ended up going way too many times in both Tirana and Saranda. It was very cheap, maybe like $5-6, and they have just tons of options, customizations.
Tirana is cheaper than Saranda because even Pastaria in Tirana is substantially cheaper.
Yeah, same menu but just cheaper prices.
Another thing that we ate a lot was souvlaki. In Saranda you can get for $6. In Tirana is even cheaper, so you can get for $3. In Tirana we went several times to this place called Mr. Chicken.
This is like a full service place, Mr. Chicken. So you go, you sit down, you have a waiter come by. We went there quite a bit. It was a nice fancy experience that we would both have lunch for, again, less than $7-8 together. We'd be able to get like lemon sodas and different drinks too.
Oh yeah, they had
like
this drink which I love it because I'm not that into soda, so it's not that sparkly. Orange soda and lemon soda, which I guess is Italian, isn't it?
Yeah, there's an Italian flag on the can, so
so I guess it's important from Italy.
Yeah.
For breakfast, One of the things that we ate the most was burak. So in Tirana, you can pay even 50 cents for a burak. And in Saranda, because it's more expensive, touristic, it's still cheap. For $1, you can get a burak. There are different versions of burak in the other countries. So there is in Turkey, in the Balkans, but definitely the Albanian version, the white cheese one. So basically it's a pastry bread that is filled with white cheese. Was my favorite. Spoiler, we are in Turkey. So let's see. For dessert, we were quite surprised that they have a trileche. You can find for like $1.
Yeah.
A whole piece of trileche cake.
We were also pretty surprised in Tirana specifically was just the coffee culture. Whenever you walk by, especially like, we were in Bloku, we weren't able to go more than maybe a minute or two of walking before you just have another coffee shop, and they're all independent. So, you won't find your Starbucks or anything like that or Costa Coffee. It's all like local kind of coffee shops. You can find all types of desserts again, because it's that mix of East and West. So you can either get baklavas or at the same time you can get croissants. You can see tons of locals just enjoying it day and night, and a lot of them, stay up late. And you also notice you won't find much international food chains. So no McDonald's, KFC I think is maybe the most prominent kind of Western fast food chain or American fast food chain. And we actually got a chance to go to the KFC that's right across from the old dictator's house. It's kind of a funny, ironic statement there. So along with that, you're not going to get a lot of exotic international food. Maybe any Thai food, Indian food. You can find them maybe if you look really, really hard, but it's important to get accustomed to eating the local food. We actually didn't end up cooking at all. We planned to maybe cook more, meals, get more grocery stuff to save money. That's what worked for us in France. Check out our France videos and our full review where we saved a lot of money actually buying from groceries. I would say Albania maybe is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
We found that most grocery products, especially the imported ones, if they have to come from Europe or somewhere else, they tend to be pretty expensive. Even like on the scale of France, some things are much more expensive than France. Now you'll still find local products like grapes and different fruits.
Grapes are so cheap.
Yeah, that were like grown locally, or so cheap. Like 50 cents, you get this much grapes. That cheap. We tended to eat out a lot more. It was just so much cheaper than, getting all the stuff and cooking. And we loved it. We ate pretty well, I would say, pretty healthy. The portions aren't too big, which is kind of a good thing for us now. The value is amazing for how much you pay, what you get. In total, we spent this much on food. So let's talk about activities.
Yeah.
Tirana is more of a city where you can just enjoy restaurants, walk around, look at historical stuff. We went for walks. They have this beautiful square right in the middle of the city. Always had like a festival or an event on, which is super cool to see.
They have a beautiful park. It's quite large, like 5 kilometers, right?
Yeah, like around 5-6 kilometers.
5-6 kilometers, so you could go for runs. There are restaurants, coffee shops, and
it's a cool place to kind of just chill, go for a walk, and kind of see the locals enjoy their day. And we took a walking tour, which is pretty cool in Tirana, that we definitely highly recommend.
Yeah, highly recommend.
You can learn a lot about kind of the history of the country all the way back from ancient times. You can learn all about the different kind of Ottoman and Italian heritage and what they went through during communism to today, what the country is going through in its modern times. And
in Saranda, you can definitely walk around the promenade. You can go to the restaurants. There are several options. There are also boat tours you can purchase on the promenade. You can rent a paddleboard during the day and enjoy the waters. So there are a lot of things to do in Saranda, but I think our main recommendation is Lecurese Castle. It's just a few minutes driving from the city center in Saranda. It's a beautiful lookout point, and you can see the whole city. You can see the coast, right, Saranda. You can see the mountains, the sea. We definitely recommend during sunset. Don't arrive exactly during sunset, maybe an hour before.
It was really magical with the colors. You can see the whole skyline around, and there's a lot of kind of different areas to sit around. There's kind of like more like kind of the beanbag setup, and then we were on tables, and you can get whatever you like. We had like a Coke Zero and some pizza so that we can kind of claim the table and just sit there. Parking is free actually, so if you make it to the top, parking is free. You can go up by scooter too as well. So if you don't want to rent a car, scooter is a quick way to get around in Saranda. You can take a cab. We saw lots of cabs going up and down.
And it's free to enter too. So it's just free entrance, free parking. Go check it out.
All right, so from Saranda, the first thing we did is hit one of the main kind of tourist sites, which is something called the Blue Eye. Based on what we read about it, is kind of this natural spring that's inside of water. So it kind of forms these super cool colors, and it's like surrounded by trees and forests. So there are like restaurants and things to kind of sit down and enjoy the rest of the river stream, which also looks quite nice. But of course, the Blue Eye is kind of the main attraction of kind of the whole site. It took about an hour out of Saranda to get there, so not too bad with our rental car. We got to the entrance. They have a free parking outside, and then you kind of do a 10-15 minute walk until you get to the actual Blue Eye, which was super cool. It does get pretty busy, lots of people around it. I mean, there's very obvious no swimming signs, and we were kind of surprised how everyone was kind of jumping almost right into the actual like Blue Eye. It'd be much nicer if people were more respectful to that area.
It's just as beautiful in real life as you see in pictures and in our video, but definitely I think there are too many people, and people not respecting the rules broke a little bit of the charm of the place, because then you're looking at the water, you're not looking at the water, you're looking at people swimming in the water. But again, we went in the summer, in the high season. Probably if we go a little bit outside of this period, it might be less busy.
All right, so right after Blue Eye, we kept heading north, and we arrived to this beautiful town called Gjirokastër. It's like a UNESCO site. The whole town is just super old and magical, built long ago, and it's built like right alongside a mountain. So you have amazing views of like the rest of the valleys and the other mountains. It was actually super easy to like park there. There was like a huge modern underground parking garage. We paid maybe just $2-3, spend like the whole day there. We kind of walked around the old shops and restaurants, cafes, and we kind of just kept walking up until we found Gjirokastër Castle. So there's an actual castle like all the way on the top. We went inside. Entrance fee was about $4.
Maybe $6. Well, you're gonna find out.
Well, it's between $4 to $6. Over here is about how much it really cost. They've kind of turned it into an old museum for, I would say, like old weapons and things like that. So you'd see kind of the different stages the castle went through, from like medieval times to like World War II. But I would definitely say the highlight is from the castle, once you kind of walk inside, is you have such a beautiful view. You're on the top of kind of Gjirokastër, you see the whole valley, and it's just, it's a pretty cool place. We had to run away pretty fast because there was a thunderstorm. But we definitely recommend to check it out.
Yeah. Rent a car just for a day. You can visit these two places.
One common thing we found a lot of people doing is they actually take a ferry from Saranda to Corfu, which is part of Greece. So that's kind of a way to change up their trip, where they get to experience a bit of Greek culture, go to the beaches in Corfu and enjoy some of that. So that's definitely an activity you can do if you're in Saranda. I think it's just like an hour ferry ride. We didn't do it. The ferry's about $30-40 per person. And also, if we wanted to go to Greece, we'd want to stay the night, and then we had to find hotels, and it's not as cheap as Albania, so we ran into a bit of those issues. Hey guys, quick announcement. We wanted to share our new tool, flybnb.io, which we created to help you find flights and Airbnb prices in one search. Here's an example planning a trip to Tirana for a week in May. We made these new filters for minimum rating score and review count, which helps you narrow down good Airbnbs. We can right away see the total price for the two of us costing $355, flights for $37, and a standard Airbnb averaging $318. Flybnb groups the Airbnb listings into 3 price tiers: economy, standard, and premium, and displays the average price for the listings in each of them. This helps you quickly figure out the total Airbnb cost of low, mid, and high-end stays at your destination. You can select a price tier and go through the listings with the exact price, rating, and review count displayed for each. If you want to check out a listing further, click on the View on Airbnb button below to open the listing on the Airbnb website directly. Comparing the prices between going to Tirana or Corfu, Greece, which is something we did on this trip, Flybnb can show us in one search that the same trip would cost us almost 3 times more in flights and Airbnb. If you guys want to give it a try, go to flybnb.io or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video. If you do have a bigger budget than us and you'd like to experience Greece, it's a super cool way to have both Albania and Greece, quick ferry ride across. Next, and a big portion of our trip and what we're most excited for was
beaches. Maybe say too.
All right, so those were like the main tourist site that we went to and explored. But we spent the rest of our time exploring beaches.
So there are a lot of beaches, a lot of options. We chose 3 beaches to visit in the same day, which was Jolly Beach, Jeep Beach, and what was the other one?
Well, these are the names of the beaches we visited.
Parking, it ranges from $5 to $6, but around $5 you can park your car. Some beaches, they don't force you to rent a bed, but other beaches, they try to force you a little bit more.
Yeah, that was one thing we also were not used to, is most of the beaches are very kind of private beaches, I would say. They're not your classical big open beach that the city or kind of the county maintains. So they have to make their money somehow. So they either charge you to park, right? So different people charge you to park, or some offer free parking, which for one, we thought, oh, cool, free parking. We parked there, but then when we tried to go to the beach, they kind of came at us pretty hard to tell us, okay, well, are you going to pay for like an umbrella and a kind of sunbed, which was, we picked accidentally without knowing, because no one tells you the price, an expensive beach, and, we weren't planning to stay long. So it can kind of get tricky sometimes where, they give you the free parking under the pretense that you're a customer for that beach. Access to the water itself seems to be free. It's kind of public property, the water itself, but how you kind of sit on the beach gets a bit tricky.
Casimiro is even more than Himaris Coast in terms of how private it is. There are a lot of umbrellas all the way to the water. It's almost like there's no space for you to leave your stuff because you're gonna be in the umbrella from someone. You just had a small bag, we put in the corner, and you enjoyed the water, we didn't pay for anything. But then as long as you stand on the sand, a guy came to talk to us, hey, this is a private beach. So it's almost like you cannot even stand on the sand after jumping the water because someone's gonna come and talk to you.
It seems like the beaches though on the Himari coast are a bit maybe less incessant about this, just because maybe there's more space on the coast itself. So you have spaces like to go and just set up on the sand itself. The bigger problem is actually parking, just because the areas are really tight and any lot is kind of taken over by someone. Again, the prices aren't too much, but if you're not the type of person who likes to sit on sunbeds and umbrellas and kind of enjoy a full service, you will find it a bit difficult. And we do recommend maybe you stick more to the Himari coast, where they have just bigger beach sizes, so that at least you just have to pay for parking. Otherwise, if you do prefer, that kind of full service, I think you'll be very happy in Albania. Just for us, we're not really used to paying to be at the beach, so it did come pretty weird for us to interact around that. But
it looks like things are gonna change and the beaches are gonna be more public. And it's a beautiful country, they have a beautiful nature. It would be a shame if the beaches are all private, or at least it's hard for people to have access to these amazing beaches.
As Hafa was saying, it's awesome that there's these new laws that hopefully will make it better, especially for the locals, right? I mean, as tourists, even though we're on a budget, it's still really cheap, especially for like the quality that you're getting, right? Like this water is really, really nice. That turquoise water that everyone puts on their tourist boards as if they have, but most of the time they don't have. Well, we're happy to say Albania really has that type of water. And when we were there in August, the water was very nice and warm. You could spend the whole day just in the water. You won't feel cold or anything like that. But, we think for the locals, if I was an Albanian family and I just want to go to the beach and enjoy these beautiful water, it's kind of disheartening to see that a lot of it is paid. I mean, we understand the overall economics that people need to make money and they need to charge for the beach to maintain. But it's just, unfortunate as us coming from places where we take for granted beach and lake access that everyone can go enjoy no matter how much money you have. But that's kind of our little tidbit about the beaches. So one big part of Albania that we didn't get to explore is definitely the north part of Albania. They have huge mountains and forests. There's like some beautiful river gorges and stuff that you can take like boat tours through. And from what we understand, it's probably way less touristic than the south. So it's a kind of nice break from, the super busy, popular Saranda area. So if you do have time, we definitely recommend looking into the north of Albania. Probably in our next time, we'll definitely make sure to go there.
Our total cost with entrance tickets, stand-up paddle rental, and parking was $55.
Here's what we found super surprising and didn't see coming at all.
Number one, beautiful nature, beautiful mountain range, and beautiful beaches. Just beautiful. Another thing that surprised us is that it's extremely safe. In all the cities you've been, you can just walk around at any time.
Never even got nervous at any point, so.
Yeah.
So one thing we noticed,
the Albanian language is so hard.
And to give you an example of how hard the Albanian language is, check out what hello, thank you, and goodbye is.
Përshëndetje. Faleminderit. Miru pafshim.
We're pretty surprised how actually English was very well understood and received around most of Albania, especially like younger people or even people like under 30, 40. We communicated very easily. We could get in and out of situations, order food, never had a problem. One super important thing actually that we want to tell you guys and prepare you guys for is Albania is a very, very cash-oriented society. So what that means is not much of their businesses or services offer credit card. And for us who are, very used to just using our credit cards, we don't really consciously think before leaving the house, oh, how much cash should I have with me? And the first few days we kind of struggled to kind of estimate correctly how much cash to have on hand. So we ended up having to use an ATM a few times, and the ATM fees are just insane, something like 10%, and there's fixed commission and percentage-based commission. But one thing I did learn is a quick hack to get around this is to use Western Union or MoneyGram. If you're familiar with them, great. If not, they're basically methods to send money internationally. So you can just go to a local Western Union or online and just pay them so that someone on the pickup side receives the money. You can do the same thing, but to yourself. So that was how we, at least for the large amounts, we would send money to ourselves on Western Union and then go pick it up from a local office anywhere in Albania. It doesn't have to be a specific one. And we save tons of money, probably hundreds of dollars in exchange fees with this strategy. The currency is pretty fixed to the euro. So 1 euro is 100 Albanian lek. Make sure you get that rate. There's a lot of not very nice exchange places, especially at the airport and in some touristic sites that might take advantage of you. But in most of the country, you should be able to get 100 lek for 1 euro.
This summer, we really enjoyed Albania. People were very friendly. We felt very welcome, extremely safe, cheap, good food, beautiful nature.
Yeah, it's a nice place to kind of disconnect, I would say. It's less hustle and bustle. And even Tirana, it's a very quickly modernizing city that you get the benefits of a lot of modernization, but without maybe the cost and the price tag of all of that. So super lucky for us to see it in this moment of history. We're pretty sure probably in 5-10 years, it's going to join the EU and it's going to be, much more expensive, but, which is good, I guess, for its local population that, they'll be economically stronger, be able to kind of grow Albania even more. It's super awesome to see how quickly this place is modernizing, especially after everything they've been through.
Yeah.
And we'll end this with our total cost starting now.
We spent a total of $1,679 during our 21-day trip to Albania.
Hey guys, it took us a lot to do these videos, but we love to see your reaction. So please let us know if you guys like it by hitting that like button and maybe consider subscribing if we provide any value.
Yeah.
And if you guys like this type of video where we summarize the place we've been instead of just vlogging about it, let us know.